What's going on, guys? This is Chris from the Boys Podcast, and today I'm going to be talking about how I was embarrassed and how I used to hide my love for professional wrestling, among other things as well. I was very insecure as a child, and I really took it personal of what people thought of me. And if you view the channel, you know already that I love professional wrestling along with a lot of other stuff. And when I was growing up in Toronto, it wasn't that big of a deal because there was a lot of people, a lot of different cultures and backgrounds. But when I moved up to a smaller town, I started to hide who I truly was. And I've always played with my wrestling toys coming home and this and that, and I've always loved professional wrestling. So when I got into school, the later grades, grade 4, 5, 6, when I started to hang out with the popular kids and, started talking to girls and this and that, I started to hide who I was. Not to my friends on the street. They knew who I was. They knew I loved my wrestling toys and I love professional wrestling. I loved anime and I loved video games, stuff like that. They all knew I loved that. But when I went to school, I hid who I was. And I started to kind of fall out of wrestling a little bit when The Rock and Stone Cold started leaving. And I like to call the terror reign of Triple H when he was just... Every match, he was just cheating to keep the title. I know he was a heel and that was the purpose, but oh my goodness, I couldn't take it anymore. When I got back into professional wrestling, and this is me hiding who I was, I started getting girlfriends and talking to girls. And I remember one day, this group of kids were crying. And I went over there because I knew them. I knew them. They weren't like, I would say, the popular kids, but they were my friends still, and they were crying, and I was like, hey, what's going on with them? And they were like, the girls were like, some fucking some wrestler died, and they're crying, and I can't believe they still watch wrestling. Like, that's like gross. They do know that's like fake and stuff, right? And I was like, I don't know. So I went to go talk to them because I wasn't watching wrestling, but I was still playing with my wrestling toys, and I still love professional wrestling. And I went to them like, hey guys, what's going on? And they were like, Eddie Guerrero died. And it hit me in the heart as well. Because I love Latino heat. I love this storyline with China. I loved his evolution of getting to where he got at that point that I had missed because that reign of Triple H was going on. And years later, don't worry, I rewatched it all and I caught up on it. But it hit me in the heart because I remember when Owen died and it was in the papers and I started crying then. And I wanted to cry, but I couldn't because I didn't want them to know I was a wrestling fan and I knew of this and all that. And I was like, it's all right, whatever. But when I went home, trust me, I cried. And it's crazy to think that Eddie's death brought me back into professional wrestling because I started rewatching it and watching everything I had missed. And back then, what was great about YouTube when it was starting to kind of come out and stuff like that, you could find all these videos, on different platforms and LimeWire and stuff like that. I could find pay-per-view matches to get back into professional wrestling easy. But Eddie's death kind of drew me back into professional wrestling. And I started just hiding myself. And like I said, the kids on the street knew I was a professional wrestling fan. They knew I played my wrestling toys all the time and I watched wrestling and stuff like that. And I hid it from these. All through elementary school was hard for me because I hid who I was. I didn't tell them I liked knights and dragons and ninjas and fantasy and all this stuff that I loved and anime and stuff like that. I couldn't tell them because I was embarrassed of what they would think of me, and the girls wouldn't talk to me anymore, and my popular friends wouldn't talk to me anymore. And it really took a toll on me for a long time, and it really dropped my self-esteem. And it dropped my self-esteem when I was playing sports and stuff, when I knew I was good enough and I knew I could get past this guy in basketball, and I knew I could do great things, but I never wanted to try hard because I didn't want to fail. And that all stemmed from hiding my love for professional wrestling. And it continued on when I went to high school. And like I said, my other hobbies. When I got into high school, before it was fucking crazy now to collect wrestling toys and Pokemon cards. I started getting back into Pokemon and collecting Stormfront cards, and I still have a full binder of all the Stormfront cards, the Charizards, all you name it, I have it. And I was hiding it. And when I went to the store with my parents in high school and I would see somebody, I would throw the toy away, or I would be like, oh, mom, dad, go buy this for me. And they'd be like, just go up with the toy. No, I don't. They're like, come on. Like, I was like, no, I was truly scared and embarrassed that someone would see me with wrestling toys and say something. So during high school, I would watch my wrestling and stuff like that, but I wouldn't wear my t-shirts to school. I wouldn't rock my wrestling colors at school. I would talk to my friends about it, because the friends I grew up in elementary school, they ended up not being my friends in high school. We all went our separate ways. We would be friendly in the hallway here and there at some points, but the friends that I got now that are my top 5, they're my best friends. We watched professional wrestling together. We would go to the theater together. Even the 2 that didn't like wrestling would come with us to the theater, and I started kind of breaking through my shell a little bit. And we would go to the stores together and toy hunt and buy the Hell in the Cell set and buy a bunch of wrestling toys. But I was still embarrassed. And I still hold that embarrassment that I didn't want people to know. And when we were shopping for toys, I would always be like, oh, I'm buying it for my nephew to the cashier. Or if we saw someone, they'd be like, oh, what are you buying? Oh, these are for my nephew. Or if I was talking to a student or something like that, but hey, you have old wrestling toys? Yeah, I got some. They're just laying around. Oh, do you mind giving them up? Yeah. Who are they for? Oh, they're for my cousin. Or I'd make up some bullshit lie and not say they were for me. And that went through all of high school as well, until I got out of high school. And I know that's one of the regrets that I have, that I wasn't really myself, and I should have been myself. And I watch people who loved anime get made fun of growing up. And now anime is the fucking cool thing. If you don't like anime, you're a fucking loser now, right? But back then, even when I was growing up in the late 90s, 2000s, the 80s kids got it bad. Like, if you wore an anime t-shirt to school, you got made fun of. But now it's like the fucking cool thing to do and love. But getting out of high school, that's when my shell started to break, and I started to say, fuck what people think. And I started, collecting what I love to collect. I started getting into board game collecting, comics, magazines, getting back hardcore in my wrestling toy collection and stuff like that, and not feeling embarrassed anymore, because why would I care what people think about me? Where in the book of life is it not okay to love what we love within the boundaries of it making sense? And what I mean by that is, if you want to be a toy collector and you love collecting toys, man, collect your toys, but make sure you don't put yourself in debt and hurt yourself and your family so you struggle for it. If you love fucking playing video games, man, fucking play those video games, but make sure that you keep up with the hygiene and you enjoy the little things, the simple things outside that life gives you that are so beautiful, man. And I started to be me, man, and I loved it. My friends and I would go to the movie theaters. We would watch wrestling. We'd watch every wrestling pay-per-view. We would buy toys together. We would fucking drive all around looking for different figures and stuff like that. And I was like, yes, this is who I want to be, and I wish I was him. I'm going to tell you a story that doesn't have to do with wrestling, but this is how insecure and how much I took what people said to me to heart. I don't even know this girl. I can only, recollect her face. I don't know her name. She was only at our school for so long, and this was elementary school, probably grade 6-ish, probably around grade 6. And we were walking home one day after school, and I was with my buddies, and I was walking to his house, and we were laughing and smiling and, joking and just talking. And she looked at me, and she went, ew. And I said, what? And she's like, that's the ugliest fucking smile. It doesn't look good on you. Stop it. And believe it or not, I didn't smile until I was out of high school. Now, when I was with my friends and joking and it would come out and I was laughing, I would fucking smile. But in pictures, I didn't smile. I would just do the little smirk. or I would be stone-faced. My elementary school I'm stone-faced in it. High school graduation pictures, I didn't even go to it. Like, that hurt me so deep, and I don't even know this girl. And it hurt me until I met my wife. And she was like, hey, you really have a nice smile. I was like, oh, really? I do? And I started smiling again in pictures, and it's just crazy to think in my head that, like, something so simple like that, I would take it to heart. And going back to the wrestling toy and the wrestling collection, and now starting to collect this stuff again and fall in love with it again, and not being embarrassed about it, and rocking my fucking wrestling shirts outside when I go to the mall and all this stuff, and people were commenting me like, yo, where'd you get that shirt? Oh man, I remember watching him when I was going, oh, that's a great shirt. And going to all the events, the live events and stuff, I was like, man, I really wish I didn't hide it in elementary school, because I know the popular kids I was hiding were hiding a bunch of stuff too, because everyone at that time, we were changing ourselves to talk to girls and be cool. And that's what I hate about, these people that think you're cool and stuff and like to make fun of everybody else. You're always hiding stuff, and you're usually hiding the stuff that you're making fun of somebody for. And it really sucks to see that, and it really sucks to go through the phase of hiding who you are. And that's how I knew when I found the right woman for me, when I found my wife. And I remember the first couple dates we went to Walmart, and I went right to the toy aisle, and she's like, what are we doing here? I'm like, I love toys, I love looking at toys. And she was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And that year for Christmas, I was collecting Dragon Ball Z figures at the time. And I was like, I really need a Piccolo. I can't find a Piccolo. And fucking for Christmas, she went out and found me a Piccolo and bought me a Piccolo model. I was like, whoa, like, that's crazy. And she knew how much I love professional wrestling. She never said anything. I was honest. I wore my wrestling t-shirts when we went out for dinner and stuff like that. And she bought me the Smoke and Skull Championship for for Christmas, because she knew how much I loved Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I know I talked a little bit about other things here and other hobbies, but I really hit them all. But the one thing I hit the most was professional wrestling, because that was everything to me growing up, and it still is now. I still watch it all the time. Even when I'm going to bed, and I'll still be watching wrestling every night. I throw on a pay-per-view, whether it's new or old. I'm always watching some sort of wrestling. And I always go to the stores. Now that I have little kids, I do have an excuse now to go to the toy aisle, but I'm always looking at the wrestling toys. And my kids always now, they're 4 years old, and they always go, Daddy, those are wrestling toys. I'm like, I know they're wrestling toys. And I still love looking at the wrestling toys. And my wife knows where to find me whenever we're in the store. I'm at the toys with the boys at the wrestling toys and all the other cool little figures they're coming out with. So guys, I wanted to talk a little bit, share a couple stories about how I used to hide who I was and hide my hobbies. And it really took a toll on me for a very long time. And I'm so happy and glad that I'm out of that bubble now. It sucked that it took out of high school, because I wish I was the confident person I am now back then. And even when I started this YouTube channel and people were trying to find out, and my family was like, oh, you're doing a YouTube channel, I was a little embarrassed at first to tell them, because I didn't want them to be like, oh, this sucks or this or whatever. But I was like, why the fuck does it matter what people think? If we let the bullies win, they're going to keep bullying us. And I remember growing up and someone was like, Chris, you're fucking ugly. And I just went, thanks. And what bullies do? Look at their friends and go, he knows he's ugly. And I'm like, yeah, I am. So what? Big deal. Good it is what it is. See, he's ugly. And his friends looked at him and was like, just leave him alone, man. Like, what are you doing? And I never really got bullied a lot. But when someone says something stupid, I always had he was a bigger guy, and I was like, well, I'd rather be ugly than shop at Giant Tiger. And his friends were ripping up a long time for that one, and he stopped bullying me at that point, like trying to say shit to me at that point. But guys, I just want to come here a little bit. I know I only talked a little bit about hiding my wrestling addiction. I got kind of carried away with a little bit of other things, and my love for professional wrestling, hiding it. But be who you are, man, and love who you are. And if someone has to judge you, it's because they're not happy with themselves. And always remember that. Never take it to heart. Because the people that are judge you for a reason. It's because they're not happy with their situation. And they shouldn't, if they're not happy with their situation, they shouldn't try to bring you down when you're happy. And don't let them bring you down. Always love what you do and always love who you are and always have self-respect for yourself. But always have a boundary that you're not going to get into debt, and you're not going to not keep up with hygiene, and enjoy the little simple, beautiful things in life, man. But guys, I just wanted to talk about that for a little bit. Always be who you are, because in the book of life, there's nowhere it says that we can't love what we love, man. So do what you guys have to do, and I will see you next week for another episode.